So it kind of reads as, I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can see as it reads there. And it was signed by the mayor at the time, Ed Kozier. And that's the last page of the ordinance, and you can see where he did sign it. And I actually have the original of that on some really old paper that I keep in my office now, so it don't deteriorate anymore. So anyway, that was the forming of the department. At that same time, or right in that time frame, it says 1929, so I'm not sure if it came a little before they formed the department or right after, but there was a two-wheel cart purchased from Marshalltown. Again, I can't tell if that was from the Marshalltown Fire Department, the city, or just a company that was in Marshalltown. It just said it was from Marshalltown. And 1,000 feet of hose. We have my understanding, not the exact hose cart, but a replica of that one in our fire station, which I'm hoping to get down maybe this year and get placed someplace so folks can see.
And I don't know where we ended up with that hose cart. Any of you guys remember where we got that hose cart from? And we had a big tree out front. Remember, we had somebody took that down. We painted the stump red, and we took that hose cart and we just we didn't even tie it to anything. Nobody stole anything back in those days. So it sat out front of the fire station forever, and now it's over there upstairs. Is this thing working okay? Can you hear? Okay.
Yep. What I was thinking, I see Dave sitting back there. You think it'd fit in that little rain garden out front? I don't know. Just about the only open space we have out front. But anyway, we're going to try to get it down, and it's just setting up collecting dust in the loft at the station, and I could sure use the room for other storage. So we'll see if we can get that down. At the time, the paperwork shows that there was 8 fire hydrants in town when they got the hose cart. And my understanding was the 8 hydrants came in a little bit earlier when water came to town. So.
1930, we got water out here. And the 8 hydrants, the farthest west hydrant was on 5th Street, just east of the old school. That was Coralville, so that's as far as it went. And think about that. They had a hose cart, and how did they get it to the fire? They said if they hooked it behind somebody's car or pickup truck, or they hold it by hand, and when they got there, so what? So basically, before that, if it caught on fire in Coralville, it burned down. That was about all this town or any other town. So there was no fire protection at all. So,
yeah, the original paperwork that we found in that ordinance also laid out that the fire chief at the time could require any male over 16 years of age to assist in any fire or any event. And if they did not, they could be cited with a municipality infraction. So, and it basically said that the cart was there, and they would grab the closest car or team of horses or bodies to move it to where it needed to go. So, the first that cart was stored in a cinder block garage that actually was owned by the mayor, and charged $3 a month. Now it's. In today's dollars, that'd be $44.60. One of the firefighters that helped me with this looked that up. But the first fire chief is there, George. He was the first one, and I believe somebody interviewed him for the...
My brother interviewed him, and he said, yes, I was a fire chief. I remember going to a couple fires, and he said we really, really didn't have much to offer to the community. Fire station. We have 2 guys that actually worked out of that fire station. Tom Ridenauer's here. Where's Tom? Tom worked out of that fire station. Leroy Rummelhart worked out of that station. Where's Rum? He was here.
Yep.
There you go. Those guys worked out of that fire station down there, and they can tell you that we had one truck that never started. That was a truck they bought in 1936, 37, and then we got we'll talk about that. We got another truck down there, which was that Ford truck, which was called Bucky's truck. Named after John Buckingham, a guy who was a fireman and it's like the lead-footed. So that's how we got started down there in that garage at the Mayor Kozier. It was right across the street from Town Hall, which is in today's world out the back door of tailgaters. Down there, go out the back door. That's where the garage was. That's where Town Hall was. That's where the town shed was down there. That was the mecca of things. So from there, that's how we got started. And Tom and Rum can tell you stories about working out of that station. I don't know how you got the trucks in or out of that little dinky thing, but the mayor donated it to the city, and thank God he did it for $3 a month. So
one of the fires that the chief mentioned actually happened in that garage, and they were able to get the hose cart out and extinguish the fire. That was what I found written anyway. So as we move forward, the chief says we go forward. Some of these years we have nothing else except for who the chief was. So I don't really have a lot of data. If anybody knows anything or has something,
Well, just that I
stacked
happen to know
away.
some things about that. Charlie Kirshner lived right immediately south of Town Hall. Remember where Town Hall, which is on 5th Street now, but we're original spot, right immediately south, there was a house. And then his wife, Vivian, became the town treasurer before my grandmother did that. And Bill Schneider was actually the chief here in town for about, a couple of years. And there was nothing there. And then Wayne Rao, you guys remember Wayne? He pronounced it Rao. Wayne Rao was, he owned a gas station. He was a mechanic. He lived up on 8th Avenue. His son is Raleigh Rao. He's still here in town. So they're still there in the same house that they built in the mid-50s. They're right across the street from the Gregory family.
So we'll continue forward. Again, you'll see that Wayne had 2 terms, so he came back for a second term here and was chief. That's, as Rex mentioned a little bit ago, that's about the time that they purchased the first fire engine, from my understanding of paperwork I've gone through. And then also a permit it said to build the first fire station, but Rex was telling me this was just to add on to that
was an
garage, an addition. We see the cost of $675 in today's dollars. That'd be $12,000. We're curious about what the fireproofing was because it costs about half as much as the whole building. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And that's what I did, as the fire marshal, and I don't know what fireproofing would cost.
$675. I don't know what the hell you couldn't get an estimate for that now. I would say, on that fire truck there, it says in the Coralville history book that when there's a picture of the mayor at the time and things like that. My dad was sitting on; he was a member of the fire department. He was 17 years old at the time in 1936, and it says in there that on the first fire response they had after they got the truck, that he drove the fire and he lost a ladder. So I asked him about that many years ago. He said he did. On the first time, he was first guy there. That was one of our rules, the first guy there. If you knew where the fire was, you could drive. If you didn't, you didn't drive. And he said he went across the tracks on 1st Avenue in Coralville, which was Water Street. And he said all the ladders fell off. And so he says, thank God I was going to a grass fire. So I didn't know that until he told me. It's in that book. I didn't even know that.
So this is actually original paperwork I found for the proposal. So saying it was $675, and in some of the documentation it said that it cost that additional three whatever for fireproofing. That was like in probably the first change order that the city had on a project or something. So anyway, we keep moving forward. This has a couple of fires that had been mentioned in some history. In 38 was a cleaner fire, which Rex is telling me that's about where you live, Tom.
Well, that's actually right. It was in 1958 because I remember the fire.
Yeah, right. You're
thinking, and I don't. But anyhow, so there was a guy called Unique Cleaners up there, and Ray. Ray, got his last name in a minute, and he was the scoutmaster at Troop 207. So a good guy, but he had a dry cleaners there, and called the Unique Cleaners, I think it was called there. And the fire department went up there and is in the home that I happened to sell to Tom and Sally. I'm pretty sure I told you there was naphtha in there, and it could be bad things. I'm pretty sure I told you that, didn't I? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I did. But it was a pretty good fire. But it says in the report that the fire department got there, put the fire, and he claims that the fire saved 75 pounds of naphtha because dry cleaning is a nasty industry with what they have to do to your clothing. So we made a good stop, not as always, but as usual. How's that sound?
So we'll continue on. 48, Floyd Kelly was the appointed fire chief. And then we come into the 1950s era, Bruce Wolford. And I talked to Rum here the other day, and that's about the time you came on, you said. He was the chief then. So some other information from that time frame. The siren, so they had a siren back then. I'm not sure where it was located, but one blast, the fire was in the old part of Coralville, or what was called
which
Old
would have been
Coralville.
up to the old school.
Yeah, and it said the 2 blasts was west of 6th Avenue or Sydney at the time.
Which it's now is legally described as Coralville Heights. It's described as Coralville Heights. Even 14th Avenue is part of Coralville Heights because it was above the flood level. They just called it Heights so you knew you wouldn't get flooded.
So as we move forward, 54, I guess, is looks like when we joined what was called the Johnson County Firemen's Association. It's now called the Johnson County Mutual Aid Association now, but I assume this was the predecessor to that. Do you know much about that, Rex? Or
I know.
Nope. Just
Member of it, for sure.
Yep. In 57, there was a distinctive note that siren that we talked about was moved to the highest point of the power plant, which I believe is where Bryce worked, right? Yep. So.
That's how we got it up there, but he said it will go up on top there, which is a neat deal.
Yeah, and then here's a few more fires. 61, a mobile station. It just said Highway 6, so I'm not sure what
Well,
block
it
of
was right out in the front yard and a little bit to the west of Old Chicago. And at that time, the Strip sat higher. Remember, the Strip was put in there in the 50s, about 1952 to about 55. They made it up to Hills Bank. That really became a dike, if you will, to keep water one way or the other. And so the fire that station sat down below, and they had 4 big tanks out back. They had we saved about 5,000 gallons of gas. The gasoline was stored above ground behind it, and those things were really going down there. My dad took me down. We watched that fire in Coralville and Iowa City. Made a good stop down there, but we wiped out the station, but we saved the tanks. That was the exposure that they had to cool down.
And then 64 was the Econogas fire, and I've seen I'm sure some pictures of this, but I cannot find them anywhere to save my life.
Okay, June 4th, 1964, last day of school in Coralville. It was my last day at Coralville, what's now Coralville Central. I was there from 10 years I spent down there. The rest of us kids. Kindergarten through 9th grade. The last day of school, something blew up, and Debbie, you were there, just shook the hell out of that building down there. And Al Gertis, who was a janitor, we saw him go sliding around in his 55 Chevy. And Econogas was on the Strip where Dunkin' Donuts is, just to the west of there. And it was a big LP. It's been there within the last 10 years, I suppose. And the last place you ever wanted to have an operation like that was right there. But when they came out here after the war, there was nobody there. And they were loading some tanks out there. They delivered to farmers, and they had a spill, and it got out of hand. And it was an absolute travesty. A couple guys who worked there had some injuries, not major, but they had some injuries. And other than that, it was good. It was absolute lucky duck that something really, really didn't bad happen. It was an absolute mess down there for a long time. So.
In 66, a resolution was passed to build a municipality fire station. That happened in 67 when Clarence came to be the chief. Then there was actually an election, according to some paperwork that I have, that was not to exceed 65,000, and the vote was 165 to 95 is what's written. So well, I'm not sure what the population was there. We were going to look that up earlier, but I don't know how many people voted, how many actually voted. But so in that station, then they moved into in the fall, which is actually located today where the Coralville Police Department is. That was the first municipality fire station that was built. So
we now had a 3-door fire station with automatic door openers, and you could set those things. We pulled the trucks out, and the doors come down behind us. We thought that was just slicker and all get out. Boy, we had them made. And we did. It was a very nice fire station for a long time.
In 71, Russell Slade was appointed chief. And again, I don't have a lot of information at time frame, but I'm sure some of you folks here, or Rex has a little bit more on what type of stuff happened.
Well,
in that
I'll tell you
time frame.
something. His wife Dolores Slade is here this evening. Where's Dolores? Right. Hi, Dolores. There's Dolores. She was the mother of the wife of the chief, and Russell Slade was our chief for a long, long time, from 1971 to 1984 when he passed away of a heart attack. And tough to talk about it to this day for sure. But during that period of time, we made some tremendous strides in our training, in our equipment, in our, if you will, our relationship with City Hall. With our relationship to the community, to the state of Iowa. Those were, if you will, our formative years. And how many guys here tonight, show your hands, served under Russell Slade? Show your hand. There you go. There you go. That's me too. That's where we were. And during that period of time, we came up with Don Gregory's The formed what we called the training committee, and you didn't get on the training committee unless you knew what the hell you were doing. And the third Monday, you guys still work out on the third Monday? Third Monday, that's, sometimes I think, oh, it's the third Monday, I gotta go to the fire station tonight, but this the way it is. And we just made huge strides, not only as a fire department, but during that period of time, our wives became active and came to lots and lots of our events and things like that. We had a calling tree, so if you couldn't hear the fire whistle, for God's sakes, that's the only way up until then, about then we could get alerted. So they had in the middle of the night, you get a call, get to the fire station. That was the phone call. And of course, you might know what would happen. I heard the fire whistle. I was still in college, and I got to the fire station, and Dolores, I think it was Dolores, called my apartment and got my girlfriend at 3 in the morning. So Russell had a big talk with me about that one. And,
In 1975 was the first year of our water ball fights that we hold in the last Saturday in January. We still continue to do that today. We just held number 44 this past January. There's been a lot of talk back and forth different times that it's a lot of work and effort, and some folks say that maybe we shouldn't do it anymore, and speaking for myself, but I'm sure Dave's sitting back there, it was like, it's not on my watch. We're going to continue to do it. So it's been going along for too long. We'll make it happen. So anyway, that started in '75. This is a little bit of picture. Looking here, this is one from '78, and then from the 2018 time frame over there on the right. And it looks like it's snow every year. So what happens in the end of January, I guess. This year I can tell you, it was very cold this year. So I'm pretty sure that's you, Gary, in the second right there. I don't know about the first, I don't know about the other ones, but I'm pretty sure that's you. So
they're not backing up yet, but they were backing up shortly after that picture. I was saying.
So in 1984, Gary became the chief.
Gary Kinsinger, where's Gary? Right here.
He's sitting
Chief Gary
there.
Kinsinger, right here.
And then we start looking at some of the fires from that time frame. The Abbey Inn, which I'm not sure what part of, it was early or late '86, I don't know, but was it December, so late in '86? So
now the Abbey Inn fire had a fair head start on us. We got down there. Part of their decor on the back side and the north side of that thing, they had a swimming pool addition back there. And what was the big feature of that, if you recall? The pool was out there. They had a two-story English bus that looked like it had crashed through the wall, and they had the brick and stuff like that. So we had to enter through the damn bus back there, go down the middle of the bus to get our hoses in on the backside. And we drafted out of the swimming pool. That was cool. No, it wasn't, but we did our best, and lo and behold, we lost half the place. But it's just what it was. We got to remember that if we lost half, that means we saved the other half. So we had a lot of spaghetti spread out on the strip down there. We had all the fire departments you can imagine through the Mutual Aid Association, and we had some guys suffered some smoke and heat down there. It was a tremendously big fire, and we did our best, but it was a big fire down there. We really worked at that one.
So a few other fires. This is the early '90s. This was 625 First Avenue. This is actually now the location of the new Latitude project. If you've been on First Avenue, the big, large apartment complex, that's the corner right in there. This was, if I recall from folks talking to me, that lightning strike is what started it. And I think, if I remember right, a few people it got going so quickly that they had to come off the roof fairly quickly, if I remember some stories. This was probably, I joined in '95, and this is the stories I started hearing about from the folks that were here when I got
yeah,
so.
I sold that building as a realtor to John Slottick, the judge. And so I saw him out at the Elks Club after that one night, and I said, John, I'm so sorry about the fire. That's terrible. I hate it when that happens. He said, oh, don't worry about me. He said, I got a hell of a big insurance check out of that. And nobody got hurt. And he said, then I got to sell the land. He says, get me another one. I just don't want to have the fire. What he did say was, very sad, was there was a gentleman who lived upstairs in one of the apartments, upstairs with a lot of apartments. He said he was a PhD candidate, been working on his PhD here at the university for 6-7 years, and all of his PhD study works and things like everything he had was lost in the fire. And the guy was sitting out on the curb, and he was distraught. He might have jumped in the river that night. I don't know, but it was not. No fire is a good fire, but it was a tragic fire.
Second one here, Oakwood Village condos. And we got one at the Lakewood Village. Just like today, we have a lot of areas that have the same name, it sounds like. When we were looking at these earlier, we had them reversed, their locations, so we had to Google them to figure it out. But another large one. Also in '94 is when the firefighters memorial dedication took place. The picture on the left. This was a picture from '18, and this will be year 25 in June when we have it. Everybody's welcome to come up there. It's on First Avenue if you haven't been up that way. And it's a lovely, lovely place. So I'm sure folks here were helping when you guys opened that, and I know there's a lot of folks that helped get it where it was. So in 2000, the department jumped into its first career person. It was the fire chief. Terry Sesker was appointed. He was here for a couple years. Dave Stannard was the assistant chief at the time. He applied, he was hired, and was appointed in 2002. And then we'll kind of go into some of the things that transpired during that time frame. 2006 and 7, we worked on our training facility. So the first building that was built was the burn building. It's the one that's on the, I guess both of these are, one on the left, the burn building. We built that. That was with money that was had been setting aside a few years earlier by council. It was put into an account, and we got a lot of in-like donations. Some of the work that was done around there, the concrete, the gravel, things like that. There was a lot of community support on getting that first building built there. Then a year later, the training tower was built. That particular one, we got resources from the state, so our legislative folks were beneficial to us in getting us some funding. So with that in mind, we do call that the Coralville Regional Training Facility, and we do have other departments that do use it on a regular basis. Cedar Rapids was just down, week ago, 2 weeks ago, they came down. They use it when the Kirkwood one is busy. Iowa City's been using it. They are in the process of working on their new facility, but they do come over and use this one right now. Some of the other departments, North Liberty, we've had Ainsworth, Central City, so they come from around to use it. That brings us into the 2009 era where we built Station 2. So this is Station 2. It's located on Holiday Court. That's good. I was going to say road. It's right next to the American Inn Hotel. So if you're not familiar with that area, it is on campus. So this was a collaboration with the University of Iowa. So we have a long-term lease on the ground, and the city built the building. We are full. I can tell you, every bay is full right now. We have two engines and an aerial up there, just like we have down here. And the Johnson County Ambulance Service has a rig there that runs the Coralville, North Liberty, Tiffin area out of there. So we've got a little collaboration with those folks. So 2011, this was our James Street fire, which was a pretty big fire, or at least in the beginning. The black smoke covered a lot of the southwest part of the city. It started in the shop here. This is the strip center there, and it was a pretty wild fire. So In 2013, we did the addition to Station 1, which is the back part here. Basically, what we added on to was office space in the lower level and some dorms and bunk rooms in the upper level. I did mention when we talked about Station 2, that was the start of our dorm program. So we have college students, college-age students that live there, and they pay a little bit of rent and give us hours of staffing in the evening. And there's 6 of those folks up there. And then when we added the addition on here, we made enough room for 3 here. So we have 9 dorm rooms and a couple bunk rooms in each location. The bunk rooms are utilized by folks that live out of town that are on the department. I don't know, in the some of the bylaws that I read in the past, the bylaw stated that you had to be a resident, actually, of the time frame. You had to be a male resident over the age of 18 to be on the department. That's obviously not the case today, and we also take folks that don't live out of town or don't live in town, but they're obligated to do some staffing time. They utilize those bunk rooms that we have, so there's a place for them to stay for the night. So, and then we brought us into 2016 when we purchased some new technology, and these are our drones, and I think that Assistant Chief Pruder was going to come up this way about now and start this computer right here with a little drone video. But the one on the left is a regular drone with a camera. The one on the right was the second one we purchased. We did this with donated money, so this was not actual budget money in our budget. This is money that the folks have donated, pancakes, that kind of stuff, or just folks that have donated to the department. We hold that money and we spend it on these things that are kind of the would like and necessarily not need, but they have come in handy. We have the 4th Avenue fire was a pretty big fire. What was kind of unique about this one was it happened on fire school weekend. So you folks know that when fire school weekend happens, you lose a lot of folks that go to Ames for training. So they were shorthanded when this happened. They had to get some mutual aid help, Iowa City and in North Liberty. So, the building has been rebuilt, but the second level was completely gutted on this particular one. Drone video is going to be of our Boston Way fire, which happened, I think that was in 18, was it? Okay, oh, there we go, 2018. So that one was caused by discarded smoking material, which is a common reason for fire. And, of course, then they put gnawing down there, I guess. I'm up here talking. So anyway, the drone video is going to show that Boston Way fire. So this is how we utilize this drone for fire scenes. But we've used it more often in the search and rescue, looking for lost elderly folks that have wandered off or kids that have gotten lost. And we send it anywhere in the county. The EMA will call us and say, hey, the Johnson County needs to use it. The Iowa City Police need to use it. So we'll go ahead and watch what we got here. The second one that has infrared, we can actually pick out hot spots. So in this particular fire, when that was used later tonight for a rekindle, they were able to locate that a lot quicker, because you'll see most of the fire was on the upper end. It would have taken a lot longer to find it, but the infrared camera version assisted us very well in that. So, the drone is also used. The engineering department requests, and we actually have FAA licensed pilots, so we can do non-emergency drone flights. So we do some of our construction projects, the road projects like First Avenue and Oakdale last year and into this spring. Helps the engineers see what the progress is, and when they have their weekly meetings, everybody can see and be talking about the same thing. So we use it for a lot of different items, but on a fire scene like this, as you can tell, we're pretty much in the mop-up phase, so it's not a piece of equipment that might break out right away because we were busy doing other things, but we have the ability to use it when we need to. So that's the end of the slideshow. Rex might have a few more things to say, and like we said earlier, if anybody's got any questions or any comments, feel free. We would like to share those. So,
great job, thank you.
Good
job, Ori.
Oh, done. All right, we're done.